The icy wind whistled through the narrow alleyways of New Haverford, cutting through the shadows like a knife. Streets lined with dilapidated buildings loomed over the young woman who wandered among them, her breath visible in the cold night air. Ivy Carter pulled her threadbare coat tighter around her, the fabric fraying at the edges, a testament to the hardships she faced daily. Every morning began with a longing for something better, a flicker of hope buried beneath layers of struggle and despair. But tonight, that flicker threatened to ignite into a flame. The city had transformed into a husk of its former self, a vibrant hub now gripped by poverty and neglect. The once bustling marketplaces, alive with laughter and trade, had fallen silent, replaced by the sounds of distant sirens and muffled cries. The streetlights flickered like dying stars, illuminating the cracked pavement beneath Ivy's worn-out shoes. It was a place where dreams faded, where aspirations were crushed under the weight of systemic barriers that trapped the vulnerable and the hopeful alike. Ivy's journey had been marked by loss and sacrifice. Her mother had fought valiantly against an illness that had ravaged her body and spirit, a battle that ended too soon, leaving Ivy with nothing but memories and an insatiable drive to carve out a better life. As the sole caretaker of her younger brother, Leo, her dreams took a back seat to survival. At just 17, Ivy felt the heavy burden of adulthood pressing down on her fragile shoulders. She longed to provide for Leo, to shield him from the harsh realities that had enveloped their lives. One frigid evening, Ivy found herself standing outside a weather community center, its sign barely visible beneath layers of grime and neglect. She had heard whispers of a meeting organized by a group of activist individuals who dared to challenge the status quo and fight against the societal chains that bound them. With her heart pounding in her chest, she stepped inside, eager for a flicker of inspiration to light her path. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with a palpable energy. A diverse crowd filled the room, each person driven by their own struggles, yet united by a common purpose. The air was thick with anticipation, and Ivy felt her pulse quicken as she took a seat at the back, trying to blend into the shadows. A man with wild hair and fiery eyes took the stage, his voice booming as he spoke of change, of revolution, and of hope. "This city belongs to us," he shouted, his passion electrifying the room. "We cannot let those in power dictate our lives any longer. We must rise and demand our rights, our dignity." Ivy listened intently, her heart racing with each word. The man's fervor ignited a spark within her, a realization that she was not alone in her struggles. The issues that weighed heavily on her heart, the lack of affordable housing, the crippling unemployment, the indifference of authorities, were shared by many in the room. But beneath that shared struggle lay an undeniable fire, a desire to break free from the shackles that bound them. As the meeting continued, Ivy's mind raced with thoughts of Leo. Could she really join this fight? Would it mean sacrificing the little stability they had? The mere idea of stepping outside her comfort zone was terrifying. Yet, the thought of remaining passive while the world around her crumbled was even more unbearable. She felt a shift within her, a determination blossoming amidst the uncertainty. In the weeks that followed, Ivy became deeply involved with the group. Late nights were spent organizing rallies, planning protests, and strategizing ways to hold those in power accountable. Alongside her new friends, she discovered a strength she never knew she possessed. The diverse group, each member with their own story, became her newfound family, a band of misfits united by a singular dream of justice. Among them was a fierce advocate named Sam, whose unwavering support and infectious enthusiasm inspired Ivy to push her limits. But not all interactions were supportive. A shadow loomed over the Movement A group of powerful figures who thrived on the oppression of the vulnerable. They viewed the activists as a threat to their control, and whispers of retaliation grew louder. One evening, as Ivy and her friends prepared for a major rally, they received word that their plans had been leaked. Fear coursed through the group. The authorities were coming to dismantle their efforts before they could even begin. Maybe we should cancel, Ivy suggested, doubt creeping into her voice. No, Sam interjected, eyes ablaze with conviction. We can't let fear dictate our actions. This is our chance to show them we're not backing down. The tension in the room was palpable as Ivy grappled with the implications of their decision. Each heartbeat echoed her apprehension, a constant reminder of the risks they were about to face. But deep down, she felt a swell of courage. They were fighting for something bigger than themselves. They were fighting for every individual silenced by fear, for every dream deferred by circumstance. On the day of the rally, the streets of New Haverford pulsed with energy. Colorful banners waved in the air, voices raised in unison, demanding justice and change. The atmosphere was electric, a palpable sense of hope and defiance. But as Ivy stood among the crowd, a nagging worry lingered in the back of her mind. What if their voices were drowned out by the very systems they sought to dismantle? Suddenly, the air shifted. A convoy of police vehicles appeared, sirens blaring, a heavy presence that stifled the jubilant spirit of the gathering. Ivy's heart raced as she watched officers spill out of their cars, batons glinting ominously in the sunlight. The atmosphere shifted from hopeful to hostile, and she felt a chill run down her spine. "Stay strong," Sam shouted, rallying the crowd. "We will not be silenced." But as the officers advanced, chaos erupted. Ivy found herself swept away in the tumult, fear gripping her heart as she struggled to stay close to her friends. The protest she had once dreamed of had transformed into a nightmare. Shouts of defiance turned into cries of terror as the police began to disperse the crowd with force. In the midst of the chaos, Ivy's gaze locked onto Leo, who had arrived against her wishes, his innocent face twisted in confusion. Panic surged through her, overriding her instinct to fight. "Leo!" she screamed, pushing through the throng of bodies to reach him. The sight of her younger brother amidst the turmoil sent her heart racing. She couldn't let him be a casualty in this battle. Just as she reached him, a sharp crack echoed through the air, a sound that sent a wave of dread crashing over her. A flash of blue light illuminated the chaos as a protester fell, struck by a rubber bullet. The fear that enveloped Ivy morphed into something more potent, something that ignited her resolve. "We need to get out of here," she shouted, grasping Leo's hand tightly. She pulled him through the crowd, ducking beneath raised arms and shouts of protest, her heart pounding in rhythm with the chaos around them. The world felt like it was crumbling as they pushed their way through the panic-stricken crowd, navigating through a sea of bodies desperate to escape the advancing officers. Fear propelled Ivy forward, but she felt a sense of determination burning brightly within her. They could not let this moment define them. They could not let fear win. Finally, they broke free from the throng, stumbling into an alley that offered temporary shelter from the chaos. Panting heavily, Ivy sank to her knees, pulling Leo close. "Are you okay?" she whispered, searching his face for any sign of injury. Leo nodded, eyes wide with fright. But Ivy could see the questions swirling behind them. Why did they do that? Why did they hurt them? The innocence in his voice tugged at Ivy's heart. How could she explain the harsh realities of their world? Sometimes, Leo, people in power don't want to hear our voices, she said, her voice trembling. But we have to keep fighting, keep speaking out, even when it's scary. As they huddled in the shadows, Ivy's mind raced with thoughts of the rally, the camaraderie of her friends, and the dream of a better future. She had tasted the possibility of change, and now that taste lingered, bittersweet and tantalizing. But she also felt the weight of responsibility for Leo, for the movement, and for every person who dared to dream of a better life. She couldn't let fear extinguish their fire. They had to rise, stronger and more united than ever. The aftermath of the rally rippled through the community like a storm. News outlets plastered images of the chaos across screens, twisting the narrative to portray the activists as violent instigators rather than the passionate advocates they were. But amidst the misrepresentation, Ivy discovered a resilience she had never known. She reached out to her fellow activists, organizing meetings to regroup and strategize for their next steps. In the following weeks, they learned to navigate the system that sought to undermine them. They harnessed their anger into advocacy, channeling their frustration into a movement that extended beyond the streets. They organized community forums, shared stories of resilience, and forged alliances with other groups facing similar struggles. Slowly, Ivy began to see a shift. People who had once felt powerless started to find their voices, emboldened by the movement's resolve. Ivy felt the weight of her fears lift, replaced by a determination that grew stronger with each passing day. She had not only found her place within the movement, she had also discovered her purpose. Yet the specter of the rally's violence lingered. The authorities grew more aggressive in their attempts to silence the activists, resorting to intimidation and threats. Ivy found herself face to face with powerful figures who sought to dismantle their progress. One evening, a confrontation escalated when an influential politician arrived at a community meeting. His presence a clear message of disapproval. "What you're doing is foolish," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "You're just children playing with fire. You don't understand the consequences of your actions." Ivy stepped forward, her heart racing but her resolve unwavering. "We understand all too well. It's you who don't see the damage you're causing. You think we'll just sit back and accept your lies? We refuse to be silenced." The tension in the room was palpable as Ivy locked eyes with the politician, feeling the weight of her convictions settle firmly on her shoulders. This was no longer just about her and Leo. It was about every individual marginalized by a system that thrived on oppression. As the battle continued, the activists devised a plan for a massive demonstration, one that would capture the city's attention and demand accountability. The stakes had never been higher, but Ivy felt invigorated. Together, they would reclaim their narrative and demonstrate the strength of their united voices. On the day of the demonstration, the streets of New Haverford transformed into a sea of vibrant banners and hopeful faces. Each step felt like a heartbeat, pulsing with collective energy and determination. Ivy stood at the forefront, her heart swelling with pride as she looked out at the crowd. They were no longer shadows hiding in the alleyways. They were a force to be reckoned with. The chants rose into the air, echoing off the buildings that had once silenced their voices. But just as they reached the apex of their rallying cry, the air shifted once more. The unmistakable sound of sirens pierced through the jubilation, and Ivy's heart sank as she saw the familiar convoy of police vehicles approaching. This time, however, fear transformed into defiance. Ivy felt a wave of solidarity wash over her as she glanced at her fellow activists, their expressions resolute. They would not let fear shatter their unity. They would stand firm against the tide. As the officers advanced, Ivy found her voice among the clamor. We are here to demand justice. We are not afraid. We will not be silenced. Her words rang out like a battle cry, igniting the crowd around her. But as the confrontation escalated, chaos erupted. This time, however, Ivy stood her ground, emboldened by the realization that their fight was not in vain. The energy in the air crackled with tension, but amid the chaos, Ivy felt an overwhelming sense of purpose. In the face of adversity, she grasped Leo's hand tightly, a silent vow to protect him no matter the cost. As the officers moved closer, Ivy took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of courage within her. And then, something unexpected happened. The crowd, once fractured by fear, surged forward as one. Their collective voice rose above the chaos, a powerful chorus of defiance that echoed through the streets. It was a moment of reckoning, a realization that they were stronger together. Ivy watched as officers hesitated, caught off guard by the sheer determination of the crowd. It was a turning point, a moment where fear was transformed into empowerment. They were no longer just individuals battling against an oppressive system. They were a united force, a living testament to resilience. As the sun began to set over New Haverford, casting a warm glow over the city, Ivy felt a wave of hope wash over her. In that moment, she understood that their journey was far from over, but they had ignited a spark that could not be extinguished. They had chosen to rise, to reclaim their narrative, and to demand the future they deserved. And as she stood there, hand in hand with her brother, surrounded by friends and allies, Ivy realized that their fight for justice was not just about change. It was about the bonds they forged along the way, the courage they discovered within themselves, and the power of hope that could light even the darkest paths. In the heart of a city yearning for revival, Ivy Carter had found her voice, her purpose, and her place in a world ready for transformation. And in that moment, she knew that together, they would continue to rise, unyielding in their pursuit of justice and equality.